Thank you for being here this morning. After the cocktail party of last night, I hope you enjoyed it. So this session is a bit different from all the others. We are not going to talk about research, neither geospatial impact evaluation, so it's going to change. This session is about the next step, the way forward after the GDE, after the book. So we told you a bit about, in the last 2 days, about the book. Most of you contributed to it. So here, from our perspective, those products already bridge the gap between expertise, but still we need something else to bridge the gap between researchers, practitioners, and policymakers. So we are here today to pick your mind on, according to you, what would be the best format to be able to carry your messages, your key messages on your research, on your use cases to policymakers. So we are going to tell you a bit more about what we are calling policymakers. But so this MOOC, so I'm going to start by, do you know what a MOOC is? Yes, so massive open online course. Did you ever started a MOOC yourself? Who? Higher. Not many. Okay. Among you, the one who started a MOOC, did you ever completed a MOOC?
You didn't?
No. So that's one of the main challenge about MOOC. Is first to start one, even if you are interested about a MOOC, taking the time of following a MOOC, it's not very easy, and completed it, it's even more complicated. So the statistics shows that less than 15% of the one who start a MOOC completed it. So that's our challenge today. We want your feedback about your experience, and if you never started a MOOC, why, and why will you promote this one, contribute to this one, or complete this one? That's why we are here today. Last question. Among you, who considers itself a decision maker or policy maker, or who is considering that in his daily work is directly working with decision makers? Okay. So this is definitely the point of view that we need today, as decision maker, or if you are directly working with them, what are they need, what are their constraints, and what would be the key thing that we are going to implement into that MOOC for those people to start it and to complete it. So question number one, I prepared something on your smartphone, but let's do it the old way. So reading the title of this MOOC, Geospatial, AI and Development, Smarter Targeting, Better Monitoring, Rigorous Evaluation, what do you think this MOOC is about? Yeah. It's changed. So the last one we discussed, and that I hope will change after this session, is this one. Yeah.
Just how should we interpret the multiplication? Like it all has to be involved with all of them together.
So the idea, any other, so too long? The thing between, yes?
I didn't know anything about anything in reading that title. It would look like a lot of big concepts to me. So there's geospatial. So if I'm a decision maker, I might not have had a classic sort of surveying background or land information systems background necessarily. So I think geospatial, oh, that's a big one. AI is it geospatial and AI and development. So there's three like fairly big concepts in that title. The other part, the sort of subtitle, smarter targeting, better monitoring, rigorous evaluation. That sounds like language that as a decision maker, I can respond to. So for me, there's sort of like two halves to that title. One which I think would respond, one that I think less so.
Thank you. Any last comment on this one? Yes, Eleonora.
I almost wanted to start with some sort of like,
Thank you.
I almost wonder if it might benefit from starting with some sort of verb. So like using or, activating or something about using geospatial technology for smarter targeting, better monitoring, rigorous evaluation in development applications or something, which I realize makes it slightly longer, but somehow the starting out with those geospatial times AI times development, a small reconfiguration might actually make it a little bit more accessible, I think. And like something about an easy entry point. Geospatial AI for practitioners or something.
Thank you. Second question. In a MOOC on geospatial for decision makers, what matters most according to you? Concrete use cases, formats, field stories, practical tools, expert interaction, participants interaction, or other things? We're going to vote. You can vote for 2 in the list. Okay. Let's go. Concrete decision makers. Concrete use cases. Okay. Formats. Formats, it means like if it's 3 minutes videos, 1 hour, if you have podcasts, video, webinar. So it's everything about the way the MOOC is gonna be formatted. Format. 2, 3. 4. Field stories. Between field stories and? Yeah. Okay, the field stories, it's people from the ground who are gonna share their experience.
Potentially of having interacted in a use case.
Yeah.
So it can be linked, but it's not exactly the same.
You want the other one? Okay.
Important.
Expert interaction. No, I forgot. Practical tools. Okay, interesting. Yeah, it can be TORs, checklist. It doesn't have to be data and code.
Can I think just add, I think online people are also listening too, and I think they won't be able to listen to the questions here if you don't use the microphone. So use the microphone, okay, please.
Expert interaction. So peer learning. Peer learning. Okay. Yes, we can. So the expert interaction is more the one you create between what we are doing with book, like different fields, different expertise. The participants' interaction are more about peer learning between the policymakers themselves and the decision makers themselves. So participants' interaction. Okay, nice. Any other idea? That's what would matters most.
Yes, I think you need to stratify the MOOC in a way that people are able to filter it in a way that is relevant to their work. So, for example, you can go with sectors because a technical expert for infrastructure will not be interested so much in agricultural use cases. So you should have a good way of actually finding those sub-elements or use cases or entry points that are really, really specific and relevant to your field. And then the other thing is, I think you need to slice it well so that people can consume it in small parts because they don't have a lot of time most of the time. And then also, I think it's like good if it has some, I think sometimes less is better. Yeah, in the way that if I'm a decision maker, it helps me to know that after 4 sessions, I'm through with this and I know everything and it's not a never ending story. Because I think you guys presented already a little bit the concept in the last days, and the word is okay. If you're finished with this, then you can do the next module and the next module and the next.
We're going to that in the subgroup.
Yeah, but at least as an end, like if you're really focusing on decision makers, I think it's good that at some point in time I know I'm covered, and then.
Thank you, Johannes. So last question, and then we will present you where we are. Yeah.
I have a question. If the MO is adapted in MOOC, because if I'm for decision makers, does massive and open resonates? I don't know, because if I am a decision maker, I don't want it to be massive. I want to be with a happy few that are like me. And also about the open, I want to be among decision makers and not anyone. So I don't know if it's right.
So we are going to come to that. Thank you. Last question.
No, just a comment on the concrete use cases with decision makers. It has to be a priority population for the decision makers and a large number of them. I've heard a lot of policymakers dismiss if it's a small, quiet population that you're covering or a low priority on election year. However good the data is, it's irrelevant.
Thank you, Rubai. Last question. How much time are you willing to commit to a MOOC if you started it? So, no, as a decision makers.
Is that in total?
It's important to know how it's related to your question. How do we need to plan it? Like to follow everything from the beginning to the end, to have small formats. So it's important for us to have an idea about how.
It's the total amount or?
Total amount that you are ready. It's not the format of one video. So less than 2 hours. 2? Less than 2 hours. Okay. 2 to 5 hours. 5 to 10 hours. 2. And more than 10 hours. Okay.
But it depends, right? Because if it's done like what you said, sliced up and modular, then the more content you have, the better.
Yeah. The MOOC can be 50 hours of video. My question was, how many hours can you spend on it? So it's not the total amount of the content we will have in it, but the one you are able to consume. But that can say, I know that's
I know that this MOOC exists, and it is 10 hours, and I can give that to people of my team And so I want something long and good, but not for me. But yeah, you understand the idea.
Thank you. So this is the why about this MOOC. If you have any other question about that, we will come back to it in the subgroup. It will be easier. Christoph, can you tell us something about who is carrying this project?
Okay, so maybe quickly to introduce myself. So funny. Nice. So I'm Chris. I'm with the European Space Agency, and in fact, we are one of the 3 entities carrying this MOOC. I would say that Claire and AFD are really the driving force behind it, but we basically teamed up because we felt there is a gap, and plus, actually, it complements very nicely, let's say, a broader picture of what we do in the European Space Agency in the development cooperation domain. So we actually have a program that I manage called Global Development Assistance, where we work with development finance institutions, so all the development banks, but also partly UN and some funds, amplifiers. And we see a lot of the needs that are expressed in this conversation in these partnerships on multiple levels. And often, you know, the use cases, as we heard here from the colleagues from KfW, we have a lot of use cases, but they cannot scale or they are not adopted, no matter how great they are. So we have to make this next step to foster the adoption. And that's why we said, okay, this is actually a great opportunity. And this MOOC in the long term, once it's completed, will also feed into a broader concept we call the Global Knowledge Hub for Earth Action that we are currently setting up at ESA. And well, I think that a lot of these conversations here will help us shape and hopefully improve the process. So, thanks, Claire.
Laurent, do you want to add just a word about Data Terra?
Very quickly, so Data Terra is a French biggest data public infrastructure, and it's also become recently an environment node of the EOSC European Cloud. And of course, here we contribute with experts on many issues because we have 5 data infrastructure thematics such as biodiversity, ocean, atmosphere, land, and also solid earth. So it's what we bring. Yeah.
So, for the one who doesn't know me, I'm Claire Zanuso. I'm the head of Emerging Tech Lab at the French Development Bank, so the 3rd partner. And we are here because we are not doing, we are doing a few research internally, but mostly we are financing some projects. And our daily concern is to help the decision makers internally, but also in our partner countries, to use your research, to use all the also geospatial and remote sensing tools and data more. And we know that all the great research who are available right now, even the book that we coordinate with Kunwar here. This is not the good format to convince decision makers and policymakers. So that's why we are here. That's why we're partnering with you 2 institutions, because you produce already a lot of content. You have a learning hub, both of you. So if you are here, it means that we have this shared things that something is missing still. So this is what we're trying to gap here. So for whom?
Yeah, so as you see on that slide, this MOOC is intended for large number of type of stakeholders from really the national central office, such as Prime Minister office, that will have to decide about strategic decisions for a country. We saw yesterday, for example, irrigation decision at the country level. So this is where Earth observation, of course, can support where is agriculture, what are the watershed capacities, and decide about it. You have also, this MOOC also could serve national agencies and government operators, such as environmental, water, or energy. For instance, you could use Earth observation for illegal logging regulations. Another scale is local government. So local government, they have multiple issues for which they would use Earth observation. For example, for answering for reducing risk, such as flood risk, and do some drainage planning, for example. Another one also would be like sectoral planning agencies, where they will need like very advanced Earth observation tools. For example, an environmental regulator could monitor whether a mining operation remains within license boundaries. And finally, and it's here also where this meeting I think was could be useful, is for all public institution donors, where this MOOC also could highlight geospatial technologies supporting funding decision and impact evaluation, of course, linked to the discussion we are having for the last 2 days. The MOOC, so the idea really so this looks simple, but it's not actually to design the learning pathway. Of course, when we talked about how much time it will take, there's also an idea to use AI so that the people get addicted to the content and to the MOOC itself, and actually addicted to a geospatial community linked with, for example, GeoField, or also interested about reading the books we talked here. So really the learning pathway is to go slowly and get more interest, to get deeper. So you need a strategy about that, and it needs to be collective. It also needs to be, we have many existing MOOCs. So the idea was why to do another one and what this one would bring. So for that, of course, you need to discover, you need to understand why geospatial and AI are important for decision maker to improve your public policies. Then you need to understand what really are geospatial and AI. And then you can explore through some typical thematics, some challenging, such as forest, climate, I already said some, and you can get inspired from existing results, existing things that works, or understand why it didn't work another way. And then you get deeper, and it's where the book, the GeoField, the MapMe community can really support what we do in the MOOC.
So just to complement this session, about for you to know about the MOOC. So if you have any interest or deep feedback, please reach out to us. If you don't have a specific interest, but you would like to disseminate what you are doing, it's open, because it's going to be like disseminate widely. And in this last section, toolbox, the ambition of it is to link to existing community of practice, like GeoField, to existing other MOOC, to the book, and any other research on content that you have. So it doesn't mean that we are going to digest your content in the other blocks, but at least we will help you we will showcase what you've done, and we can put all the links in this dive deeper. Because as you mentioned, Ingrid, if the target are decision makers and policy makers, they have team, and in their team, there are more technical people. So if those decision makers and policy makers know that there is more content, if they don't go themselves, then can share it with their team. So that's the idea. Okay. A bit more about pedagogical formats. Christoph.
Yeah, so we thought this is, I mean, in the question at the beginning, nobody found this particularly important. I think we actually do. So it might warrant a bit more explanation. So there are different formats in how we structure online learning, not just MOOC, but generally learning, right? And we want to create something that facilitates adoption, right? So we are not teaching university students here. We are not trying to convey research results in a way for the matter of how great the research is, but we are trying to put something together that a decision maker can easily digest and adopt. So also the learning pathway before, we should have a parallel impact pathway, right? So that you don't just explore, play with the data, but that there's always a clear pathway of what is the anticipated end result and what's the impact for the decision maker, what changes if you do that. So the pedagogical formats should support that. So you have here a number of different, let's say, options listed, right? So you can have, we had the stories from the field, which obviously overlap with the use cases, but it's quite relevant to have those testimonials from experts, right? Who actually, were engaged in such use cases and convey maybe the message differently to the geospatial experts. So the other point is feedback from decision makers. Then you have potentially hands-on exercises, but we should also try to, maybe make use of the more, let's say, recent tools and options that are out there, such as integrated AI. Actually, here we have a chat box to guide participants through. This could be augmented with AI. Actually, in the ESA Knowledge Hub that we currently have online, the GDA Knowledge Hub, Global Development Assistance Knowledge Hub, we have an AI virtual assistant. We call it Chat GDA for the lack of a better name. And that actually should encourage the participants to engage with the content in a more interactive manner before engaging with let's say, real experts. So we have put out here some different options, and the focus should really be, as I said, the uptake-oriented nature of this. So I think we wanted to ask a question here also, maybe, right, again, to get back to this initial question, are formats important? Do you still think it's not important, or you think it's actually maybe something worth considering? Still not important.
I think it's important. I still struggle a bit with the intended audience, actually. That it's hard for me to believe that the decision makers, that they have so much on the plate and they hardly find some time for anything, and to think that they will spend time and think about a method in itself, because they really don't care. From my perspective, they really don't care about the method itself. It's not important for them to have like geospatial analysis, right? They care about that the project they have, they're running and they're implemented, and whether it's via household surveys or geospatial data, like, right? It's nice to know, and also like the buzzword AI probably helps. But I was thinking whether maybe there would be two tiers, like one for decision makers on a higher level, that they get like the idea why it's important, why it's helpful. And then you have a second tier of those who are like under the decision maker, maybe taking the course at the same time. And then they would have these hands-on exercises and role-playing exercises. I can see it then for them more than the actual decision makers. Maybe it depends also on definition on who's a decision maker, but the higher you want to go, the more you want to reach out to those who have the actual decisions, the less time you have, rather than those who advise the decision maker. So I think it's important. It's difficult for me to grasp that they would put much time. That's why I think the format is very important. Yeah.
Maybe quick feedback on that. I think, yeah, you're right. The definition of who we want to address here is quite important. Maybe just a quick reflection on that from the ESA perspective. So when we work with the development banks, right, let's say with World Bank, with the regional banks, but also with the national banks, what we see is there's different levels of decision makers, right? There's decision makers, obviously, in the governments, in the countries, clear, and that's what we often think about. But there are also decision makers in those banks who have a lot of leverage about what is actually happening in large-scale programmatic financing decisions, right? So actually, if we can also stimulate those decision makers in the banks and make them fierce advocates, then this can trickle down to decision making in the countries as well, and they require quite a different way of addressing compared to decision makers in the countries. So for us, it's like different, as you said, tiers of decision makers that we want to address. Another point that I wanted to highlight is I agree with you that most of these decision makers would say, well, we have enough to do. I don't need this, right? I don't even know, already in the title, I don't know what I will get, so I rather do my other things. I think that with some of the institutions that we have around here, we can actually, we have a bit more leverage to not force, but to incentivize decision makers to take such courses. For example, we are currently working with the World Bank to help them. They now introduced a career path for data scientists, right, which they never had before. They put in place a geospatial action strategy, right, across the bank. And actually, they are listening to expert institutions like ESA on how can that be done, right? So such a MOOC might be one option, but most of you who work in institutions may have been forced to take a cybersecurity course. Otherwise, your email will shut down, something like that, right? I'm sure you all have had that. So if you are on a career path to be a geospatial data scientist in a development institution, maybe you may have to take a course on geospatial basics. So decision makers will want to understand where is this going, how is it best put together to incentivize the development of skills. And I think there the formats can vary vastly. I agree with you. But sorry, the reflection.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. And I get that decision making may appear different across the different actors. But let's say in NORAD, we don't implement projects. We finance projects. And so I get that it might be interesting to pitch this and link it more as well on results, cost effectiveness, performance-based management, because I think, at least in my agency now, there is a huge focus on this. And I'm pretty sure that I will have colleagues telling me, yeah, but impact evaluation, what's the difference? We have already tons of actors that use geo data, but this is different. So I think it's very important how to pitch it and the why it's important to do this. And so that we can, in a way, get more involvement and engagement within the organization. And then we can leverage that and engage in the dialogue with our implementing partners. We have in the past organized some incubator on impact evaluation. And we had invited some NGOs and actors that we work with. And so I get that this can be something like that. But I also think it's crucial that people in like decision makers kind of agree first on this, because it's incredible how people can disagree on methods and on why should we invest money or why should we finance this type of project. Of course, this knowledge is a global public good, but when budgets are shrinking, it's even more important how to pitch the message, I think. But I think it's a super nice initiative, and I would be glad to engage in a further dialogue.
Thank you. It's echo a lot what we are thinking and where we are struggling. I mean, we are still struggling about defining the targets and formats. For us, it matters because we think for the more high-level decision maker who doesn't have time, we even thought about like an initial webinar where they attend, and then the one who are going to consume more episodes or other format will be less high-level decision makers in their team. So we share completely your concern, but we really want this feedback to know and to adjust. And back to the title, it's too long. It's not because it's difficult. I mean, otherwise it would already exist, this MOOC. So it's not here because it's complicated. But yeah, we agree with you. It matters because we need the buy-in of those decision makers to like go further with all these research tools, like data, etc. And then Johannes, yeah.
I mean, the comments that have been raised, because I think decision-making takes place at a variety of levels in government. And so it's about thinking in terms of the technical information that the MOOC provides. What is the right level to pitch that in? But I'm also thinking, in my experience, these MOOCs, of course, they are capacity building, they're skills building, but they're also soft power and advocacy tools, because you don't learn in 10 hours how to do this, but it's about creating the awareness that this is something that needs to be done. And if that is also your approach, then I think there is a little bit of, let's call it room, flexibility, to be a little bit imprecise in terms of how you target. You don't have to worry too much about absolutely hitting the spot, because you are trying to create some advocacy, you're trying to create support for this as an approach, which if it's successful, it will require government departments or however they're set up to invest in tools, in infrastructure, in software. It's a big commitment to then actually engage in that. So I think if you remember that it's also about advocacy, then I think it can be a little bit more forgiving than to have to hit exactly the right technical level and the right target with completely the right messaging. Of course, that is important, but it's also advocacy, I think.
Thank you. Johannes, last, keep it short if you can.
Yeah, I would just, to summarize, I would agree that the most important thing is that you better define and know your audience. Yeah, because that will determine all of the subsequent steps. Which format do I need? How deep should I go? How much should I offer? If you don't nail that down, and it's a lot what you put there, yeah, and very, very different people. One of the strategies that you might use is that you don't go too deep and you're not too ambitious of creating a community and actually teaching technical stuff. But if you keep it at an entry level, it fits better to all of those audiences, I think. And maybe that's a strategy to reach more people, yeah, or reduce the audience.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just on that point, if I look when we present the public infrastructure data Terra to countries, then we presented to DRC, they said we want a DRC data Terra. We did this, we talked with Senegal, said we want a Geo Senegal. Many countries, we went to Polynesia, French Polynesia, say we need it on our island. And so many times then they say, so what do we do? And they want to finance something. You talked about they more finance and actually do. So this is maybe where we say, okay, you want to know how to do it? You want to finance it, but you don't know where to start with, which of your services at what level should. So I think there is maybe a strategy to convince, to invite them to this geospatial party. And if you want to go to that party and know the people and understand what's the game, so you need some concept, you need some knowledge. And this MOOC should be an entry door to then, you build your strategy for whatever level and enter the community. So I think we need to find a way not to lose, because then if we would say, oh, it's a MOOC only for like prime minister or very high level, okay, but it's going to be hard to get all of them. But of course, it's hard to mix them. So maybe we have to separate somewhere. So say if you have a like national level, it would not be exactly the same content. We could adapt that, yeah.
Thank you. I see that there is more question. That's a good news, even if we don't agree, but we will take them later, or let's discuss it afterwards in the coffee break. Just a quick word about the timing. So because there is still, we feel that we need to start somewhere. Otherwise, we're going to talk about it for the next 3 years and don't produce anything. We're going to start and produce at least 4 or 5 use cases, meaning like videos of 7 minutes. And starting, we are not going to talk about methods. We are not going to talk about, it's going to be about the why and the how, and just to improve their appetite. So this, we are going to try to produce them by the end of the year. And what we hope for is we will learn from that. It won't be perfect. We will receive hopefully some feedback, and we will do better on the next round next year. So this is a second call for joining us. if you are still not convinced, because at this stage it's still blurred, complicated and things, we will share with you once we have first product. And if there is an interest, please reach out to us, because there is many different ways to join this. Because again, I mean, if the three of us are here today, it's to show that we really want to do it together, because we think this is the only way to do better than what we are doing now, and to reach this audience that it's so difficult and that is used to see, I mean, each of us and not just single institution or kind of person. So working session, yes.